It's a brand new day with Mona News. It's time to have your say. She's got the scoop, the stories, all the latest trends. Mo's got the news, let's hear it. My dear friends, from politics to showbiz, no story's too small. Mo covers it all. She's got the inside call, her voice so smooth, like honey in the summer sun. With Mo on the mic, you know the news is always fun. Mornings with Mo, the best newsy news in the world. With her style so classic and her stories unfurled, from morning till night, she's got us in the know. Turn on your radio, let Mo's newsy news flow.
Good morning, everyone. It is October the 14th. We are here at 8 a.m. And if you have the day off, I hope you do have, spend time with your families and friends and do whatever it is you would like to do on whatever we are calling this holiday now that won't get me canceled. Good morning, Green Veggie Beast and Wolfram. Thank you for doing all of the Modly Mod stuff. Welcome, Janie J and Colorado Mountain Girl, Swifty, Irene. I'm going to say Calixo, but I am terrible at names. So if I said it wrong, hopefully I will work on it. Sometimes if you spell it phonetically, but even then, not going to lie, I am terrible. Hooked on phonics did not work for me. Our first story is a feel-good story, which is great. A trooper, Florida dog rescued from Hurricane Milton on I-75, waits for adoption. Now, I have heard a couple of different sort of theories on this. The first one being some awful human being. Oh, okay, Calixio. Thank you. That helps. That actually does help. Left their animal, abandoned him. I've heard corrections being that, he was on a leash, or he or she was on a leash and ran away and got stuck in a fence. So whatever the story is, garbage human or not garbage human, I hope that this puppers gets a good life. Super cute. Love those ears. The dog tied to a fence along Interstate 75 as Hurricane Milton approached Florida is a real trooper. The dog appears to be a bull terrier and is now in the care of Leon County Humane Society in Tallahassee. A video clip widely shared on social media showed a state trooper spotting the abandoned pooch tied to a fence along I-75 Tampa with stormwater rising to the dog's chest. After sparking an online outcry, the dog is now named Trooper and was pictured in his cozy blanket on a plush bed in a post on local society's Facebook page on Thursday. The post explained his new name was in honor of how much he's been through and to honor those who saved him. Aw, don't make me cry early in the morning. Quote, we wanted to let those who have been following this story know that he is safe and sound because we've been worried about him since seeing the story. We also want those following to know we take animal abandonment seriously and will be closely watching his case and using his experience to educate. Trooper was picked up Wednesday night after the shelter was contacted by the Florida's governor's office. Hundreds of thousands of people, fled to escape Milton, which spawned a series of devastating tornadoes around the state. Trooper, it seems, was not included in his previous owner's evacuation plan. Oh, and Alice, happy Canadian, Thanksgiving. Oh, goodness. Well, hopefully the surgery will help and get things going in the right direction. But I know anything that, even planned surgeries, give me anxiety. So you will be in our thoughts on Friday, and hopefully the rest and recovery is not that difficult. A 30-second video posted on social media by Florida Highway Patrol showed the dog stranded and tied up to a fence with water up to his belly on the side of I-75 as the storm approached the Tampa Bay area. I mean, I'm not going to play this video. It's been over everywhere, and it just makes me want to throw things at my monitor, which Mr. Mo says is not appropriate. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis reposted the video saying it's cruel for anyone to leave a dog tied to a post in the middle of an oncoming storm. Florida will hold anyone who mistreats pets accountable. At Wednesday evening news conference about the storm, the governor added, "What kind of animal would just leave a dog chained to a pole in the middle of a hurricane? I mean, it's unbelievable." Trooper's story highlighted the issue of animal cruelty and abandonment. The Leon County Humane Society has been able to raise $1,600 for dogs with similar stories and to help with daily rescue efforts. The shelter says it will keep Troopers fans appraised of his recovery. The dog is still stressed and decompressing from the events of the last few days. He'll be finding a new home when he's ready for his next phase of life. If you feel compelled to, donate, their Leon County Humane Society does accept donations. And honest to goodness, this is just the worst thing that anyone could ever do. Welcome, Lorelei Annie. Welcome, welcome. It's just, again, I get that there are a lot of tough choices, but if you cannot handle the responsibility of a pet, do not get one. Dingus is a wild werewolf kitten, and I love him, but he is a wild werewolf, and we are trying to, as much as you can train a cat to not steal my food, I am trying to train him. Now, the training is not going well. Well, my Mini 67, except you forget that Wolfram is a Sith Lord and can get out of his cage whenever he wants. It's mutual respect. Of course, I don't understand what is going on with my computer. I should probably ask Mr. Mo. But apparently, there are UFO sightings linked to Bigfoot, and all of these things can be found in our national parks. So, from UFO sightings to Bigfoot inside the eeriest national parks or national park in America, it's like the X-Files. Interesting. Paranormal Ranger. Why not? Let's see here. Maybe we'll take a field trip to the most haunted national, parks ever. When Navajo Ranger Stanley Milford Jr. and partner John Dover were assigned to the Department for Investigating Paranormal Activity in Arizona and Utah's Monument Valley, the pair couldn't believe it. "Oh my goodness, we're going to be like the X-Files," said Dover. But as Milford reveals in his new book, The Paranormal Ranger, a Navajo investigator's search for the unexplained, Dover's hunch was accurate. Quote, "I never expected to go looking for ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, extraterrestrials, or Navajo witches," he writes. "Seems like all those things that you could see at my local Walmart. Look, I'm not saying I saw Bigfoot, but there was a man in a tank top that if he was not part Bigfoot, I don't know. I'm not saying as a president I would outlaw, you know, very hairy men from wearing tank tops, but at least braid the hair, have some beads in it. I mean, make it look presentable. uh, let's see here. The cases led me to one conclusion: there's much more to this world than we can imagine. I might buy this book. The son of a Navajo father and a Cherokee mother, Milford's 11-year stint investigating paranormal activity within Navajo reservations defined his career. From UFO sightings in Arizona to Bigfoot encounters in New Mexico's Chusca Mountains, Milford treated each case with equal seriousness. For those experienced in paranormal encounters, the event can be traumatizing, he writes. "I learned to shut my mouth and open my ears." Believe me, Dingus would like to, he loves the television show As the Laundry Tumbles. And when he sees me take a laundry basket, he would like to beat me and then stop right in front of me while trying to take laundry to the laundry room. So completely understand. Some of the investigations followed him home. In November 2010, Milford visited offices in Window Rock, Arizona. The employees heard disembodied voices, felt unseen hands touch them, he writes. Interesting. Soon Milford was targeted. I felt an invisible finger touch my lip, move across my mustache from one side to the other, he recalls. Then I heard two male voices about 3 feet away, but there was no one there. Later, a chair shot across the room, a laptop battery crashed against the wall, and scores of coins rained down, all landing heads up. The only conclusion was that a spirit was saying, "Heads up, I'm here." Interesting. Then Milford's cousin and fellow investigator Tony was pursued too. He found a dollar bill with "die" scrawled on it and saw a 12-inch butcher's knife fly across his kitchen. The spirit was trying to send a message. Uh, he wrote, "If it wanted to hurt us, it could." Well, flying butcher knives, I think it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye to, Slimer. Today, Milford no longer doubts there are powers beyond our comprehension. Paranormal investigation is less about what's out there than what's right in front of us, he writes. Interesting. I mean, I'm open to the possibility. If I were stuck being a ghost on Earth, I think I would take quarters through the metal detector at TSA just to bother people. I would not be a very productive ghost. I would be a helpful ghost. Like you're running late for, your day and you can't remember where your keys are, but I would help you. I'd be like, "Psst." Of course, I'd probably terrify people, but that would be part like seeing them jump and then, "Hey, I'm a friendly ghost. I do like to see the startle reflex, but your keys are right here." Friendly neighborhood ghost, Mo. And other terrifying things. Well, Nicole Kidman and Selma Hayek apparently have a beef, and I'm kind of fully on Selma Hayek uh, side, and I don't know even what the issue is. But Selma Hayek is like the hottest woman, natural-looking woman in the entire world. We do not push her, Nicole Kidman. So there seems to be a beef, probably not including cows of any kind, except for heifers. Nicole Kidman and Selma Hayek seemingly shared a tense moment at the Balenciaga show during Paris Fashion Week on September 30th. A video of Big Little Lies star and Hayek emerged online over the weekend and appears to show the former pushing the latter's hand away as they went to pose for pictures with Katy Perry. Ew. I mean, weird thing to fight about. Can't say I would ever, knock someone down to get a picture in with, Katy Perry, but priorities. After the photographer asked them for just one more photo, Hayek used her hand to turn Kidman, who had her back facing the camera, toward the bright flashing lights. Oh, well, I mean, that just seems like helping someone who's wearing sunglasses indoors and not even, playing the song "I Wear Sunglasses at Night," which I feel is disrespectful to my culture of the 80s. And it was in that moment that Moulin Rouge actress grabbed Hayek's hand and pushed it away. She then gave Perry a kiss and exchanged a few words with the Frida star before walking away. Now, it is unclear what the Australian actress said to Hayek, but after Kidman walked away, Hayek said, "Yes, please, advice." Someone, presumably Kidman, said, "You don't need it," to which Hayek replied, "I do." Okay. This is a big nothing burger. I mean, can't imagine that I would. First of all, if I am going to be in Paris, my fluffy behind slightly deflating, but still fluffy, is eating all the croissants. I am not going to Fashion Week, mostly because I will never be that skinny, and a lot of their clothes look like they were made in a fever dream, which, if that is your vibe, that is great for you. But I just like something comfy that doesn't make me look like I'm wearing a muumuu. I have very weird standards. Put Sailor Moon on it, I'll probably buy it. So there you go. I mean, what in the does she have a tail in this? Is this purposely meant to just drag along the floor? I am so confused about fashion. I Okay, and then she's wearing bug antlers. Okay, I give up. You know what? Confession from Mo. I will just never ever be a fashionista. Darn. Darn. Well, Meghan Markle bothers me on many, many levels. And I have already vented my upsetness that Jimmy Choo dropped a Sailor Moon collection that is way more expensive than anything I could ever do. Again, when a purse costs more than my first 3 cars plus the bondo that kept them together, just, can't do it. Can't do it, won't do it. But there you go. Selma Hayek and some other chick got into a fight. That would be how I would report it. Sorry, Nicole Kidman. Now, this is an interesting story, and I will tell you that I do want to get my friend Cara Winnicky on. She is an appellate lawyer for Indiana, but there have been a lot of appellate lawyers and new research, and this is a topic that no one really wants to go out on a limb about. But there has been more evidence that the traumatic brain injuries that one does see in quote unquote shaken baby syndrome is could possibly be caused by other things. There are medical things that are coming out that appellate lawyers are looking at. So I would like to see or hear her kind of better explanation uh, of that. And Swifty, I do know if you are on your phone, I don't think you can do it on an Apple phone, but that's about all the technological stuff I know. So I did pull this story. It is not a good one to read. It is not, when you think someone has abused a child, no one wants to stand up for that person. But there has been more medical, steps forwards or step forward that there might be people that were charged with these heinous crimes that it might need more investigation. And if they can prove that they are dumpster trash people, I'm okay with it. But I would like to hear her perspective because I know she has been working on several of these cases and has a better grasp of these sort of issues than I do. He was sentenced to death after his toddler died. Now, shaken baby syndrome is at the heart of Robertson's 11th hour appeals. Uh, Texas this week plans to execute. Sometimes they have photos in this, and sometimes they. Okay, here we go. Robert Robertson, whose attorneys say was wrongfully convicted of unaliving his 2-year-old daughter more than 20 years ago. His advocates contend Robertson's sickly toddler, Nikki Curtis, died of double pneumonia that had progressed to sepsis. Her illness further exacerbated by a combination of medicines now seen as unsuitable for children. But Robertson took Nikki to a hospital, and doctors and nurses immediately diagnosed her with suspected CA based on bruises and injuries to Nikki's head, including severe brain swelling and bleeding in her brain and at the back of her eyes. The inmate's attorney calls that the diagnosis and also discredit baby or shaken baby syndrome on its face, despite the broad consensus among pediatricians that it's legitimate. And, like I said, I'm not coming down on either side. I just know that this is something she is working on. And if we are going to send someone to be taken care of by the state and shuffled off this mortal coil, I want it to be, with the full confidence, which again, full confidence in the government. It's a bit of an oxymoronic thought, but the lawyer said, too, that Robertson's behavior at the hospital was misjudged. His strange, flat demeanor, then viewed by medical staff and police as evidence of his guilt, was a manifestation of Robertson's autism, which was undiagnosed until 2018. Let's see. It wasn't a crime committed, Robertson, 57, told CNN about a week before his scheduled lethal injection. I was wrongly and falsely convicted of a crime. They said it was a crime, but it wasn't no crime and stuff because I had a sick little girl. Still, Texas intends to, follow through on the lethal injection on Thursday in what his attorneys say would make him the first person in the United States executed on shaken baby syndrome conviction, as the diagnosis comes under increasing scrutiny in United States courts. His innocent claim also heightens the inherent risk of capital punishment. A potentially innocent person could be put to death. At least 200 people, 18 in Texas, have been exonerated since 1973 after being convicted and sentenced to die, according to the Death Penalty Information Center. Among advocates for Roberson are the Innocence Project. Well, okay, the Innocence Project, I am sure people go into the Innocence Project, wanting to make sure that no one innocent is convicted of a crime. But some of the tactics that I have seen the Innocence Project writ large as an organization, not maybe their individual state chapters, has been really grody. So the Innocence Project somewhat gives me pause. Autism advocacy groups concerned about the role his disability might have played in his conviction, and a bipartisan group of more than 80 legislators in Texas, and the famous courtroom thriller author John Grisham. Also in Roberson's corner is Brian Wharton, a former Palestine, Texas detective who regrets his part in what he feels was now a too narrowly focused investigation into Nikki's death. The shaken baby syndrome diagnosis from doctors and nurses, their emotional response to Nikki's condition, and Roberson's odd reaction all stacked against the then suspect, said Wharton. And welcome. Thank you for becoming a member of the Church of Mo, Swifty. And we enjoy dark chocolate, sarcasm, some maladaptive but hilarious coping mechanisms. And the only thing we don't allow are those plastic recorders, because if you have ever sat through 6 recitals of hot cross buns, those things are awful. So those two things are playing against each other. The emotional upheaval of ER staff alongside a father who was just there, he told CNN. And then you add this accusation of shaken baby syndrome that affirms for you all the emotions you had in the ER. It makes that flat affect much more suspect. The investigative or suspicious mind takes over and leads the investigation, he said. Very early on, Robert was the focus of everything to the exclusion of any other possibilities. Roberson's attorneys are not disputing that babies can and do pass away from being shaken, but they contend that more benign explanations, including illness, can mimic the symptoms of shaking, and those alternative explanations should have been ruled out before the medical expert testified to a certainty that that was the cause of the death. Shaken baby syndrome is accepted as a valid diagnosis by the American Academy of Pediatrics and supported by child CA pediatricians who spoke with CNN. The condition, first described in the mid-1970s, has for the past 15 years or so been considered a type of, quote, abusive head trauma, end quote, a broader term used to reflect actions other than shaking, such as impact or, any number of terrible things. Abusive head trauma generally occurs when a frustrated parent or caregiver, gets really frustrated, either shakes or hurts their child. And I'm going to pause here. I have had 6 children. I completely understand, you have been up all night. This child just won't stop crying. Put them in a safe place. Put yourself in timeout. I am not the best parent. Uh, I have, lost my cool, yell at my kids, but I would tell them, like, I need to go into timeout. I need to change my attitude. And you know, it's absolutely not a weakness if you put your child in a safe place, if you call a friend, you know, anything, just vent. Don't take it out on your child. Your child doesn't know why they're crying either, for the most part. I mean, beyond hungry, crying, tired, gassy, irritated. I mean, it is so incredibly frustrated when you've poured, and pour and you nurse and you're like, "What is still wrong with you?" Put that baby in a safe place. Take 5 minutes, take a quick shower, collect yourself and come back. It'll be okay. Now, quote, there's really not controversy in medicine about the existence of abusive head trauma. The science behind it is quite clear. A former American Academy of Pediatric President Lee Salvo Beers told CNN in a 2002 report or 2021 report on how abusive head trauma cases are not coming to trial due to unsubstantiated defense claims. However, the decision around 2009 to refer to what has been known as shaken baby syndrome as abusive head trauma was misinterpreted by some in legal and medical circles as an indication of doubt in or invalidation of the diagnosis of the injury itself. The American Association of Pediatric acknowledged in 2020. The group, quote, continues to affirm the dangers and harms of shaking infants and continues to embrace the shaken baby syndrome diagnosis as a valid subset of abusive head trauma diagnosis and encourages pediatric practitioners to continue to educate community stakeholders when necessary. What are community stakeholders? I mean, I I mean, community members I'm okay with, I feel, but I'm not a stakeholder, or at least I don't feel that sounds so corporate to me. Criminal defense lawyers have also oversimplified how doctors diagnose abusive head trauma, child abuse pediatricians say, noting many factors are considered to determine that. The landscape has fueled a fierce debate now playing out at the intersection of medicine and law, with Roberson's case at the center stage this week. The conclusion is simply Nikki was a victim of abusive head trauma, unequivocally, said Dr. Sandeep Narang, a CA pediatrician and lawyer, said Tuesday after he was asked by a supporter of Roberson's defense. I thought there was clear reasonable basis to find this conviction, Narang told CNN. And though this case represented a high probability of abusive head trauma given all the total findings in this case. Meanwhile, courts in at least 17 states and the U.S. Army since 1992 have exonerated 32 people convicted in shaken baby syndrome cases, according to the National Registry of Exonerations. Just this month, Texas Court of Appeals ordered a new trial for a man sentenced to 35 years in prison after being convicted of injury to a child in a case that also relied on shaken baby syndrome argument. In its ruling, the court wrote, significant scientific knowledge has evolved regarding shaken baby syndrome. While Roberson's conviction was upheld on appeal, his attorneys continue to pursue that remedy. They're due Tuesday in court to argue yet another aspect of Roberson's case, they say, claiming the judge who scheduled his execution did not have appropriate jurisdiction, and so the death warrant should be void. They have also petitioned the Texas Pardon and Parole Board and Republican Governor Greg Abbott for clemency, asking for Roberson's punishment to be commuted to a lesser sentence or for him to be granted a 180-day reprieve to allow time for his appeals to be argued in court. The Anderson County District Attorney did not respond to CNN's request for an interview. Roberson was charged with capital murder on February 1st, 2002, one day after he took to Nikki or took Nikki to a hospital in Palestine, Texas. She wasn't breathing and her skin was blue. Due to Nikki's injuries, medical personnel were soon suspicious and a nurse called the police. Nikki, meanwhile, was flown via a helicopter to a children's hospital in Dallas, where sadly she was taken off of life support and passed away. Roberson has 3 other children and had gotten custody of Nikki just 2 months earlier. He had learned of her only after her birth, and she spent most of her life in the custody of her maternal grandparents, who eventually agreed Roberson should have custody. Roberson told the investigators he picked the toddler up on January 30th, 2002, from her maternal grandparents' house, took her home, put on a movie, and had gone to sleep in the same bed with her. The complaints against him says they were alone. Now, Roberson says that he woke in the middle of the night to Nikki's cry and found that she had fallen 1 to 2 feet off the bed to the floor. He saw blood on her lips, a bruise under her chin, and he told the police this story. He wiped the blood away with a washcloth, kept her up for 2 hours to make sure she was okay, and then eventually fell back asleep. When Roberson got up in the morning, Nikki was unresponsive. I carried to the hospital and stuff, he told CNN last week. I didn't have nothing to hide. A pediatrician specializing in child maltreatment at the hospital in Dallas told police Nikki was a victim of abuse. The girl's injuries were, quote, indicative of shaken impact syndrome. Dr. Janet Squires wrote an affidavit. Thank you so much, Mel Culp. And I am noisy but efficient, and I put all of my new taggy tags since I had to get more. Again, thank you guys so much for your support. But I do think we are going to absolutely fill up that shadow box with all the tags this year, and I cannot thank you guys enough for your support. So thank you so much. Let me get this written out, and then we will continue. And Clomp, sorry. And the pair, the super pair, thank you so much. Let's see here. So the Dallas County medical examiner who performed her autopsy determined that she had passed away from blunt force head injuries and ruled the manner of death a homicide. Let's see here. At trial, the state called 12 witnesses. The court records show they included Squires, who testified CT scans showed Nikki's brain was swollen and there was blood under her skull and behind her eyes. The injuries, Squires said, could not have been explained by a simple impact, such as falling off the bed. Yeah, Jess, I might want to dig more into this case after Delphi, because it does seem like there's something, I'd like to see a pattern of abuse with the other children. I mean, okay. I would hate to see a pattern of abuse with the other children, but it would seem odd that he would suddenly start with the child he fought to get custody of. But I know people do absolutely gross things. I mean, think of all those parents who, maybe struggling with substance abuse, their kids get, taken away, and they fight like heck to get them back only to unalive them because they wouldn't stop crying. I mean, so we know that people will fight for something just so other people won't have it, especially unfortunately, in cases with, children. Quote, it was a very violent, forceful act, she said, of the shaking that would have caused Nikki's injuries, noting it was rare for shaken baby syndrome to be diagnosed after a single isolated incidence and more likely to follow a pattern of abuse. Squires did not find evidence of old injuries such as fractures or blood, she testified. She was not asked, nor did she address whether such a pattern of abuse may have been a factor in Nikki's case. It's not something that ever happens accidentally, Squires testified. She did not respond to CNN's request in early October for an interview. Narang, a child abuse pediatrician and lawyer, further pointed to trial testimony of the 11-year-old niece and 10-year-old daughter of Roberson's then girlfriend, both of whom said they had seen him shake Nikki on previous occasions, and the girlfriends claimed that Roberson waited to take Nikki to the hospital. Now, Roberson has denied the girls saw him shake Nikki and attributed the delay to him, bringing her in as a state of shock and dressing Nikki before taking her for help. I couldn't be specific in telling you whether it was a child's head impacting another object or surface or whether the defendant's hand or leg or something else hit the child's head, said Narang, who reviewed the case in light of today's science, but there were signs of impact about this child's head in multiple different locations. Nikki's maternal grandfather, Larry Bowman, declined to comment to CNN except to say, "We don't want nothing to do with it. We've left it up to the Lord and the law." Roberson's attorneys have disputed the idea that Nikki was a victim of this particular syndrome, pointing in part to a 2001 report by the American Academy of Pediatrics. They said unfairly skewed how Nikki's doctors viewed this situation. Quote, although physical abuse in the past has been a diagnosis of exclusion, it reads in part, data regarding the nature and frequency of head trauma consistently reports the need for a presumption of child abuse when a child younger than 1 has suffered an intracranial injury. According to Roberson's advocates, the presumption language led the doctors to treating Nikki to conclude that Roberson had abused her without considering any other possibilities. There are other explanations, too, that Roberson's attorneys claim for why the toddler was hurt. Nikki, who was plagued with health problems requiring frequent doctor visits in her young life, records show, was fighting an upper respiratory infection in the days before her death. 2 days earlier, she had visited the emergency room with a 104.5 fever. Nikki was also prescribed both promethazine and codeine, both of which might have hindered her ability to breathe. Causing hypoxia, which they claim can lead to the brain to swell and the same bleeding beneath the skull. Those medications are now seen as inappropriate for someone Nikki's age and in her condition. Taken together, the illness, her prescriptions, and her alleged fall off the bed, I don't know. Again, that is a scary high temperature. That is a scary high temperature. But it is absolutely, this goes on a little bit more, and it's just them fighting over, is a doctor right? Is the doctor wrong? I do want to get Kara's take on this because she might be able to break down where the legal system is finding maybe some inaccuracies or some contradictions in this. It does seem like you could see this case from both sides, and since I am not very well versed in this case, I can render no opinion. But I don't believe that we should go ahead and, fire up old Sparky, if you know what I'm saying, unless we are fully sure. But I know everyone has their own ideas, and goodness gracious, I don't tell you how to live. Just, I ask you use your brain when you make your choices, like all moms. Oh, what is going on, Brave? I have the same rare vampire condition Count Dracula had, and garlic can kill me. I didn't know that Count Dracula had a, condition other than, well, impaling the ever-living crud out of, the Ottoman Empire, but okay. She is the real-life Count Dracula. Interesting. Okay, well, ma'am, if you're gonna dress like that, and I thought you just said garlic could kill you. A woman's rare vampire disease causes her to writhe in pain and could be fatal if she ingests garlic, much like the mythological, blood-sucking creatures. Phoenix Nightingale, 32, has what is called acute intermittent porphyria, a very rare metabolic disorder that can result in symptoms such as pain, migraine, constipation, and vomiting for days at a time if triggered. So I do actually know what this is. It is a buildup of a certain protein in your blood, and normally your body can break this down, but it can be very toxic to you if you can't get this toxin out of your blood. It actually it happens. I think it's also created if you're out in the sun. So people that suffer from this often tend to stay inside to not go in direct sunlight. Unfortunately for the Minnesota woman, her condition is triggered by an allergy to sulfur, which is found in garlic and can even result in a fatal attack if she ingests too much. People call it the vampire disease, she told Jam Press. The real life Count Dracula, Vlad III, is suspected to have had the disorder, which inspired the fable of vampires who hate garlic and are sunlight averse. When it comes to the legend about them needing to avoid garlic and staying out of the sun, looking pale, and having receding teeth, are all kind of factors that are kind of hallmarks of this now. Nightingale explained. Neurological side effect can make people think that those with conditions must have been monsters or possessed. Interesting. The mom of two is forced to avoid any foods containing sulfurs, as eating it in high amounts over an extended period could be fatal. Symptoms, she added, can come out of nowhere or start to set in weeks ahead of an attack. I'm very careful about what I put in my body. I've avoided a lot of food. I stick to food that I know is safe. I don't even take most medications. I haven't eaten garlic since I was diagnosed and could never eat garlic bread. It would send me into an attack. Uh, Describing life threatening attacks as 2-day bouts of throwing up and sometimes 60 times over the course of an attack with potential breathing difficulties. Nightingale says she's experienced over 480 attacks over the course of her life as she searched for answers, desperate for a diagnosis that only came last year. The pain, she added, can't be remedied by prescription drugs, insisting that it's worse than giving birth. I had one attack where I didn't go to the hospital and it went on for 40 hours. It was nonstop getting sick, losing consciousness, screaming and crying. I've pushed out 2 children and it's worse than childbirth. It's agony. This makes dining at restaurants particularly challenging since garlic is a popular ingredient in many cuisines, and she also avoids red grapes, soy, alcohol, and coffee. When I go out for dinner, unless it's a place I know, I look at the menu and I cry because I don't know what I can eat and I prefer to stick with my safe food, she explains. She's sharing her diagnosis publicly in the hopes of spreading awareness about the condition to anyone who might be struggling to find a diagnosis for their symptoms. Took 31 years to get a diagnosis, and I had to pay out of my pocket and spend years running analytics on it, she said, adding she had to take matters into her own hands. As hard as a diagnosed person not being able to find a doctor who can help, when I see a doctor or go to the hospital, they have to Google the condition. Girl, same. Girl, same. Now she is hoping she can help make changes to the medical system for medical or mystery diagnoses and chronically ill patients. There have to be more people out here suffering with this that are just being called crazy. So absolutely, as much as I make fun of the whole get up, it is beyond frustrating to go to doctors and not have something that they've not even heard of or researched, since med school, and have that be something that is, you're continually told, oh, well, maybe you're imagining it. Have you thought about therapy? Is there something going on in your life that's making you want to seek out attention? And to doctors, no chick ever, except maybe someone who has reached her goal weight and is just super proud, no chick ever wants to go to the doctor's office where the first thing you're going to be asked is to weigh yourself. Like, we don't want to go there. Okay, I don't want to go there, for just some random like time off. In what can only be the new sport that Mr. Mo and I will crush one day, Mud, Beer, and Cash annual wife carrying championship attracts competitive couples to Maine. I mean, Mr. Mo, I could see that being his entire face, like, "This is going to end badly." At least some of them are wearing helmets. Well, I don't know that that helmet's gonna help you as you hit the mud, well, mouth first, but I like it. Carry your spouse around for the day, for the win. Can confirm this looks like a whole lot of fun for athletic people. An annual event involving beer, dirt, and cash once again drew dozens of eager competitors to a ski resort in May on Saturday. More than 30 couples competed in the North American Wife Carrying Championship, a 278-yard or 254-meter race, during which contestants splash through water, leap over logs, and trudge through mud, all while carrying their partner like a sack of potatoes. The sport's origin story isn't exactly politically correct. It is based on a 19th century Finnish legend involving a man known as uh, Ronikin the robber, whose gang was known to pillage villages and carry away the women, according to one of the explanations included on the website wifecarrying.org. Traditionally, the Finnish event featured male competitors carrying a woman. On Saturday, competing couples did not have to be married, nor did they have to be a man and a woman. Interesting. Thank you so much, Wolfram, for 5 gifted memberships. And those went to Tammy Bogard, Roxanne M., Irene Calixio, Bradley Molster, and Rosalind Duke. So congratulations. Welcome to the Church of Mo. There you go. One contestant, the carrier, was dressed as Mr. Incredible while his wife was dressed entirely in pink. They and others were cheered on heartily by crowds on both sides of the course at Sunday River Ski Resort. Most managed to navigate the grassy hillside, but a few stumbled in the mud, their female partners jumping off before they regrouped and kept going. Most of the participants used a technique in which the wife is carried like a backpack, upside down. I mean, I am trying to be a good Christian channel, but things that could be both said at a Diddy party and this particular race. Upside down to ensure the runner's arms are free for the greatest agility, wearing smiles and grimaces, competitors ended up wet and muddy. The champion leaves with the weight of the wife in beer and 5 times the wife's weight in cash. To estimate the amount they win, the winning wife is put to one side of a seesaw-like scale. The organizers balance out on the other side with cases of beer. If this didn't happen in Maine, I'd say it happened in Kentucky because holy fazolies. I love that this sounds like the most Hillchuck American thing that has ever happened in my entire life. And I'm here for it. We come each year for the fun, said Wade Portfield of Cuba, New York, who competed with his wife, Sarah Portfield. There's a very low chance of us winning. Pretty much everyone cheers everyone else on, and it's a blast. So there you go. I mean, if you would like your wife to start earning her weight in beer, you need to start training because you two need to work as a team to get to get all the cases she's worth. Oh my goodness. In our final story today, why and why? A woman pleads guilty to trying to smuggle 29 turtles across a Vermont lake into Canada by a kayak. And happy Thanksgiving, our Canadian friends. I don't know why she was smuggling turtles. Please tell me it wasn't for Thanksgiving dinner. A woman from China pled guilty on Friday to attempting to smuggle 29 eastern box turtles, a protected species, from Vermont to Canada via a kayak. Wan Yi Ning 41, was arrested on the morning of June 28th at an Airbnb in Cannon as she was about to get into an inflatable kayak with a duffel bag on Lake Wallace, according to Border Patrol agents' affidavit filed in federal court. Agents had been notified by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police that two other people, including a man who was believed to be her husband, had started to paddle an inflatable watercraft from the Canadian side of the lake toward the United States. The agents searched her heavy duffel bag and found 29 live eastern box turtles individually wrapped in socks. What? Uh, The eastern box turtles are known to be sold on the Chinese black market for $1,000 each, according to, I guess, general knowledge I wasn't aware of. Her cell phone was seized and searched by law enforcement and found communications showing that she tried to smuggle the turtles into Canada so they could eventually be sold for profit in Hong Kong, according to a plea agreement. Ning is from Hong Kong but is living in Canada right now. She pled guilty on Friday to one count of unlawfully attempting to export and send 29 eastern box turtles out of the United States, contrary to law. She is scheduled to be sentenced in December and faces up to 10 years in prison and or a fine up to $250,000. Now, ma'am, I'm just going to say this, but as your local Mama Mo, don't tell nobody why you are in prison. Say you tried to knock over a convenience store. That is what you should do. Because if you tell people you are in the federal clink for like turtle napping, I just don't know how you're going to have any Gen Pop, cred for that. Anywho, on personal notes, I am nearly done. I just have a couple finishing lookovers on the cross stitch for Sailor Moon to get it, all figured out and make sure I didn't miss any of the little cross stitches. But then I'll be able to wash it and, press it and hang it up officially. Right now, I just have it up because it's easier for me to see, okay, I definitely missed this particular section and that section, but it is almost officially done. And also, another note, public service announcement. If you have shaky hands, since we all decided I was going to be doing diamond painting, I look worse than I look worse than Sarah Boone on the Mad Dog 2020 DTs, trying to get all of these little beady things into a baggie without shaking. It is definitely going to be a big project. I really need to learn to start measuring things and figuring out how big these are because this is a honkin' project. So there a word to the wise, make sure you do not have a bunch of caffeine or you're in a hurry because these things are Satan and they will spill all over the place and then you'll be cursing, picking them up with your finger and trying to get them into the, freaking little baggie. Have a great day. I will be dual streaming with Baker today. We are going over some unheard audio of Sarah Boone. I'm sure it will, of course, bolster her case and make me feel bad. I'm sure. And I will be, let's see, nightly newsy news will happen. It will be slightly shorter. I am going to be on a stream tonight at 8 p.m. with Publicly Buzzed. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for Modly Mod's help and everything. Have a wonderful day and enjoy this day off if you have the day off. And hopefully we can give something to listen to. Yes, I will be heading to the Broken Baker right after I get off here and make sure that Mr. Mo doesn't need any help with anything that he's attempting to do today. Bye, you guys. Have a great day. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. But if someone's a jerk, screw them. Bye, guys.